Grant's Rock Warehaus, and tonight I want to welcome Todd Evans and Paul Simon to the show. The topic tonight, the final albums, when key members leave. So let's get started. This should be great.
Serving the universe, one obscure song at a time. Grant's Rock Warehaus.
Holy crap, welcome everybody, but I know we're late, but Todd Evans and I have an excuse. We were recording a show on the Contrarians about vinyl care, vinyl storage and all that, and Martin Popoff was there. Nick Esquire was there. It was such a good discussion. So we're kind of scrambling. I've learned my lesson not to butt these episodes back to back. But here we are. We're glad you're here. Thanks everybody for tuning in. So yes, the topic tonight, we are talking about, what the hell are we talking about? Now I went blank.
Final album.
So we're talking about those records. You know, there's a lot of bands that, you know, they put out a record. One of the founding members or one of the members that had a lot of influence, they left. So we're going to look at those final albums before they left. And we'll probably talk about those records after they left too, because it all kind of goes together. So I want to welcome Paul Simon from Rush Fans and Todd Evans from Rush Fans and the Contrarians. We've seen all these gentlemen before. I would like to welcome you guys. Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehaus once again. So how is everybody? Before we do that, though, I want to welcome everybody in the Peanut Gallery. I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for your patience. We will get to your comments. But anyway, gentlemen, how are you? Nice to see you.
Good to see you, Grant.
All right. So it's just let's just do this. I'm going to start with Paul, Todd, and then I'll rally, but I might just host this one. Both of these gentlemen have 3 picks. So, Paul, what's your first pick?
My first pick went with Veruca Salt's 1997, 8 Arms to Hold You.
Holy mackerel.
Yep. So, for starters, out of my 3, this is my only 10 out of 10 album. This one, we have Louise Post, Jim Shapiro, Nina Gordon, and Steve Lack were Veruca Salt at the time. So, they got big, and they got big relatively fast. 2 albums, 1 EP in between them. They broke in 93 with their debut album, and then in 95 they had an EP, Blow It Out Your Ass, Veruca Salt. Then 97, 8 Arms to Hold You. The singles start happening. Volcano Girls, it's a smash. So they get big very fast.
That's a great track. You have to admit. Yeah.
Then they do Saturday Night Live. They play Shutterbug. They only did the one song because of Sting and some other stuff. But point is, they got very big, very fast. Bob Rock produced it. They, by the time they were going to go on tour, the drummer, Jim Shapiro, his heart really wasn't in touring. His heart really wasn't in the drumming. So he left totally amicably. He's actually Nina's brother. So they brought in Stacey Jones from Letters to Cleo and American Hi-Fi. Yeah. Really, really good pedigree, great chemistry, awesome fit. Fantastic. Mm-hmm. So they go on tour. Then the way that Veruca Salt fans have described it is on the size of, basically the band imploded on Fleetwood Mac level. So Steve, being relatively quiet, simply left. Nina and Louise had a massive, massive split. Nina goes solo, and Louise holds on to the Veruca Salt name, and they don't talk. They write songs about each other, and it's a really, really big deal and a really noticeable thing. But 8 Arms to Hold You is an absolutely golden record. There isn't a filler song on it. It needs all 4 of them to be Veruca Salt. It's one of the 2 inspirations. The minute we talked about doing this episode, I went, I absolutely have to talk about this. And Saltines, Veruca Salt fans, are religious to say the least. Matter of fact, my copy, this is the first printing, so this is as we call it, the unicorn. So I had it in a frame. I had to take it out of the frame just for this episode so I could hold it up.
Hey, Paul, I don't want to interrupt, but I have to ask you. Yeah. By 1991, all the pressing plants were shutting down. Is that a UK pressing, or is that a domestic? What is it?
I'm not the vinyl expert you guys are, so I can't say for sure.
Well, that's in testament to how big that band was. Because
Yeah.
if they had a vinyl pressings were case by case basis and very few and far between. So if they had one, then
It's
there
like
was-
Foo Fighters.
there
I
was
got
demand. Yeah.
I got the original Foo Fighters album on vinyl back in the. I bought it at Best Buy. Imagine that when it came out. In fact, the second album was also out on vinyl too, and now that's like if you have an original pressing, it's worth money. But all right, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but we love to talk vinyl on this.
Flow.
It's all about the discussion, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so go ahead.
So, Louise continues with the Veruca Salt name. She releases Resolver, continues on. Veruca Salt fans actually refer to that time period as Veruca Starship, affectionately.
Oh my
That's
God,
good.
Veruca
Even the band
Starship.
does. Even
Well,
the band does.
I get it.
And this story, the reason I wanted to open with them is this one actually has a happy ending, so to speak, because in 2013 on their website, 4 simple words: hatchets buried, axes exhumed. They get back together, all 4 original members. Record Store Day, they come out with a 2-song vinyl single for It's Holy Museum of Broken Relationships. Then they put together a Kickstarter, get the fans behind it. They release 2015's Ghost Notes, which I still have framed and signed in all kinds of places.
Look at you. Wow,
This is
nice.
a 10 out of 10 album. This is a must-have. If you don't own this album, I'm telling you now, go out and buy Ghost Notes. You must. To the point where I actually went and followed them around the country, and I missed R40 from Rush. I missed R40.
You know, Paul, we've talked about this before, and you know what? That was a sin that you missed R40, but hopefully you'll get forgiveness. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Considering, to borrow the line again from Dead Poet Society, I had to go see About a Girl. I don't regret it. So,
Well, then you're good. You'll be
Exactly.
okay.
so but Louise went on from 8 Arms with the Veruca Salt name. No one will dispute the band was never even close to the same after that. Something different. I won't rate quality. I will simply say that after 8 Arms, Veruca Salt was not Veruca Salt as we knew it anymore until Ghost Notes. So,
All right, let's look at some of these comments, for God's sakes. Oh, there's a whole bunch. Ernesto said, well, this is going to be interesting. Of course it is, Ernesto. We're in the warehouse, for God's sakes. I am curious if this is about the last album with the member or the album after they leave.
Yes.
Yes.
this is
To-
8 albums. 8 Arms.
Byron, it's yes. Oh, here we have another question. Scales. Hey, welcome, Scales. I haven't seen you here before. Welcome to the warehouse. I'm assuming, yeah, well, it could be. We're keeping it loose.
It's mostly that. Yes.
It's mostly that. I think you're right, Gary. Some guys stay in the band too long and those albums aren't up to the prior standards. Well, could be.
That's a whole other show.
That's a whole other show.
Stay
That
tuned.
could be a good one.
D Rocker, let's kick off the show with Boston Third Stage. Hey, you know what? That's a great example, D. I love it. Let's see what else. AZ Mick. Hey, AZ, nice to see you. Muse, everybody's here. God, I love you, everybody. I don't know what Byron's talking about.
Me, the name.
Oh.
Oh, see,
I'm
Grant,
Johnny.
10 a.m. SOT Sunday, ranking Night Ranger. Yes, sir, Gary Joyce. I'll be on SOT ranking Night Ranger, and it's not an easy task. I will give you that. Here's another one. Foreigner, Mr. Moonlight. Good example. Good example. Gary, he doesn't know your choice. Gary's not familiar with your choice, but I get it. It's about turning people on.
Chicago's own. Go out and grab 8 Arms to hold you. You will not regret it.
Yep.
Late 90s alt rock.
Don't know one song. Oh my, wait a minute.
Volcano Girls. Now you do.
Scales. Bay City Rollers, Strangers in the Wind,
That's a
1978.
good example.
Last album before Les left.
That's a good
And then
example.
they turned into, if anybody follows Stephen Schnee, after that album, they turned into a power pop band. And Schnee
yeah.
loves those records, you know?
Yeah.
What's up? Sorry, I'm late. Ernesto, if you weren't late, what would we do? Hey, guys, great topic. Hey, Air Rock, thanks for coming. All right, let's get back to it. I'm going to throw it over to, and again, I appreciate everybody coming into the chat. Please keep it interactive because that's what we want. I'm going to throw it over to Todd Evans and get his thoughts on his next choice.
Okay.
Todd?
I'm going to talk about the band Chicago, and I'm going to talk about the era that nobody really likes to talk about.
Oh, God.
What I really wanted to do with this is I really wanted to talk about Chicago 14, which is the album with the thumbprint on it, because that album is much better than people think it is. But the situation there was, it wasn't a member that left after that. It was the drum kit and the electric bass that left. They were replaced by new members, drum machine, and synth bass. And
That
I'm not
counts.
even one of those people that think that drum machines are always bad. But I'm going to talk about Chicago 17, which is the last album that Chicago made before Peter Cetera, the bass player and vocalist, left. I get made fun of for being a Peter Cetera fan, and I am. But if anybody is familiar with Chicago, they know that the first 7, 8, 9, maybe even more albums have some incredible bass playing on them by Peter Cetera. Peter Cetera is a fantastic bass player. He's a very good vocalist. He has got a unique singing style. Broke his jaw in a motorcycle accident, and his jaw was wired shut, and he had to relearn how to sing. That's part of why he enunciates the way he does. And anyway, great guy. This record, I liked it when it came out. I was still stung by the fact that they replaced Danny Seraphine and Peter Cetera, basically sent them home from the sessions of Chicago 16. And 17 is a better album. It's got a couple of songs that I don't really care for. The production is, kind of not my favorite, although I will say that it sounds pretty good considering the way they made it. It's got a couple of decent Robert Lamb songs where Robert Lamb sings. He's kind of bouncing back from his drug problems at this point. We Can Stop the Hurtin' and Only You. Not my favorite album, but what happened with Peter Cetera is he wanted to do a solo tour, another solo album, a solo tour, and the band said they wouldn't do it, and they went into negotiations, and the band basically said, if you do it, you're out of the band. And Peter basically got a letter saying that he was out of the band. And it was like, well, all right. I don't remember there being an ultimatum, but okay. And so anyway, that's kind of what happened. So what they got, this wasn't a total disaster. What they got was they replaced Peter Cetera, a tenor singing bass player, with another tenor singing bass player, a guy named Jason Sheff, could write songs. His father was Jerry Sheff, who was in Elvis Presley's band. And so, good pedigree, nice looking dude, good voice, same kind of a voice. And they make this record. This isn't a great record, but it's not a total disaster. They find a way to make him sing like Peter Cetera. This album has a slight improvement over 17 in that Danny Seraphine basically said, well, if you're going to program the drums, at least let me do it. And so he's the one that programmed the drums. Danny Seraphine, by the way, is the drummer for.
And they axed him too.
They eventually they did. Yes.
Yeah, they did.
So anyway, for poor performance, which is rich.
Well, I think that's a bunch of BS because Danny is a drummer.
There's a book behind me. You can't see.
He's a machine.
He wrote a book.
It's all crap.
He wrote a book called Street Player, My Chicago Story, where he tells the story of the whole thing. But anyway, that's an example of, everybody thinks of basically Chicago went on to have decently selling records, but everybody thinks of 17 as really being the last one that was really big because it was the last one that Peter was on. And they never, they're definitely a band that could never go, whoa, wait a minute. Let's talk about this for a second. Their entire career has been like that. They fired Danny Seraphine. They fired Bill Champlin. They fired Jason Sheff eventually. They just fire people left and right.
Fire everybody, left and right.
It's ridiculous. And Danny has a band called California Transit Authority that plays Chicago songs, and they're really good. Chicago right now, I mean, they went on to replace Jason Sheff with this other guy named Jeff Coffey, who was another singing tenor, and now they just replaced him with some, I don't know, like older dude that just kind of stands there and sings Peter's parts, and then they have a bass player that just plays the bass, and it's like, you guys, that's kind of like giving up.
Well, they're just a nostalgia act at
But
this
they
point.
chewed through all of the good tenor singing bass players, so they ran out of them. So that is not, the 80s Chicago is not my favorite era. It's not 100% terrible. And I really should probably mention that on this album has the remake of 25 or 64, which and they led with that, and the album probably should have tanked because they led with that, because it was ridiculously stupid. But anyway,
it was was it like on par with the Police when they did "Don't Stand So Close to Me" on the?
No, it wasn't that good.
Oh,
it's very drum machiney, high tech, super heavy. It's got this like screaming guitar solo in it, like this metal guitar solo in it. It's
horrible. Yeah, it's horrible.
But anyway, maybe on another show I'll get to talk about Chicago 14, which is great.
Yeah. Hey, you stick around long enough, we'll get to that, Todd. Master of Puppets Justice, War Bus. My goodness.
On this, I was there. Master of Puppets was technically my second, but my first real Metallica album.
Well, there you go.
I was around for Ride the Lightning, but Puppets was my first new.
Yeah, Gary Joyce, he's totally on board with you, Todd. It's like the Police. Why would they re-record that? It was horrible. Why?
If they were going to do it,
it was perfect
before. They had a great new guy. They should have just made it sound like the first one. That would have been pretty good if they had just made a straight cover of it.
And the other thing is with "Don't Stand So Close to Me," Stuart Copeland was like, what? He broke his leg or something? They used a drum machine on that.
Yeah, that's a weird
stupid,
version.
dumb. God,
yeah, it's a really strange version.
Rick Emmett's last album with Triumph was Surveillance. So Air Rock, good example.
Weird for me to think of Triumph without Rick Emmett. Yeah.
How could you not have Triumph without Rick Emmett? If you listen to FM rock radio whenever they play those Triumph tracks, it's always the Rick Emmett tracks. Those were the singles. Those were the hits. And how could you have a Triumph without Rick? I don't know, whatever. Danny was an amazing drummer. Oh my God, yeah. Hey, Byron, Rob, who's an elitist, doesn't like Chicago after Hot Strikes.
Byron, I only go, I liked Chicago in the 80s, but I figured out like later when years went by that I was just basically being an apologist for them and that I really didn't like it all that much. But I go 2 records further. I go to 14. I like 13 and 14. But I totally get why somebody would say that Hot Streaks was the last good one. I totally get why somebody would say that. So I respect that opinion.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more about why he thinks that. In the comments, Byron, put that in there. I'd love to hear it. Bad Company, Rough Diamonds. Oh, well. Mm-hmm. What after that, though, they were pretty much done. They broke up and then, they got back together without Paul Rogers, but, Cactus, Rusty Day, and Jim McCarthy are gone. What? I'm not sure. Peter Cetera, Limelight song is tremendous.
Peter Cetera has great solo songs. Everybody thinks all
crap.
The solo songs suck.
We need to take a moment because evidently Star Peters is here.
Star's here. Yeah, she said hello a little while ago.
Sorry, Star. I didn't mean to miss you. We love Star on this channel. She's an original follower, mother of Brett Peters. We love Star. Star, did you even look at my Kiss episode over the weekend? You didn't pop in. You didn't make a comment. You've hurt my feelings, but I still love you either way. All right, we're keeping it. Oh, this is so much fun.
Paul, I want to throw a shout out real quick.
Go ahead, do it.
Is one of ours from Rush fans. So
who is?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Good music.
That's Rob, right?
Yep. Glad you're here, Rob. Thanks for coming.
Hey, Rob. Thanks for coming. Nice to see you. Welcome to the Warehaus.
He's got good taste in drummers, which we already knew. So.
All right. Excellent. Thanks, everybody. We'll get back to you in a. What is it? Right? I don't know what that means. All right. Anyway, we're gonna go. Paul, I'm gonna follow up at the end, but Paul, what's your next one?
All right, my next one. Minneapolis. Leaving Chicago, we're going to Minneapolis. I got Soul Asylum here. 2006 is The Silver Lining. So A lot of people know Soul Asylum, Grave Dancers Union, Runaway Train, Somebody to Shove. I was a Soul Asylum fan back in '88 when Hang Time came out. Horse You Rode In On was 1990. Then Grave Dancers Union was 92. That's the album where they got really, really big. Stuck with them. 2006's A Silver Lining was the last album that, okay, Soul Asylum at this point is Dave Pirner, lead singer and guitarist, bassist Carl Mueller, founding member, guitarist Dan Murphy, founding member, and then drummer Michael Bland from Minneapolis, New Power Generation, real big guy, killer drummer. So Carl Mueller passes away during the making of Silver Lining from cancer. Tommy Stinson from The Replacements comes in to finish up a couple of tracks and go on tour. Absolutely killer tour. This is actually my favorite Soul Asylum album, period. Can't call it a 10 out of 10, but it's a really strong 9. Fantastic tour. They did, I want to say, almost 2 years of touring on it. And then they did some greatest hits albums, and things sort of kind of tapered off. And they didn't come out with a new album until 2012's Delayed Reaction came out in summer of 2012, and something just sounded off. Tommy was on the studio album. It was that lineup, Tommy replacing Carl. In October of 2012, Dan Murphy releases a statement on their website saying, is very gracious, thanking absolutely everybody, nothing controversial about it, but he simply says, it's been fantastic. Thank you, everybody. But among other things, the two things that you absolutely need just after 31 years, the two things that you must have, which is large doses of naivete and swagger. I have neither. And then the band releases a one-sentence statement saying, we wish Dan well. Thank him very much. Good luck to him and his family. And that's it. So while it was Carl's last album, Dan's heart didn't really seem to be in anything after Silver Lining. So, and Dan, as much as Dave Pirner is Soul Asylum, Dan was such a huge, huge, huge part of their sound. They stopped playing Dan's songs live. Cartoon wasn't played live anymore. I don't know if they played Easy Street after that. Gullible's Travels. A lot of staples disappeared from the set lists after that. And I still follow them to this day, but they're just not the same band. And that's a loss. Again, amongst my favorites, they were another band that I would easily and happily go out of state repeatedly to see every chance I got. I lost track at double digits of how many times I've seen them. But without Dan, now good news is Dan came out of retirement last year or early this year in a project called The Scarlet Goodbye, the duo out of Minneapolis, keeping it small, keeping it local. But I just gave it one listen so far. Like it, different, mellow, but worth a check out. Doesn't sound like his old stuff. Doesn't have to at this point. He's paid his dues. But those Soul Asylum to me was always them. And without Dan, it sounds different. Try not to judge.
Yeah,
but
that's a good
if
one.
you own anything Soul Asylum, most people would say get Grave Dancers Union. I say get Silver Lining. That to me is their best album.
You know what? No offense, Paul. I have never seen this album in my life.
I know.
But think about it. By this time, you know, they weren't getting any promotion. They weren't. It is what it is.
I've not heard this album, but I've heard people say that this is the one to get. I've heard
Stand Up and Be Strong was the song that got play off this most, and it was ESPN and ABC grabbed it for sports. Prince actually did a remake of it in 2010, Minneapolis, and then they released it on one of his posthumous albums, his cover of Stand Up and Be Strong. So
holy crap! Well, there you go. If Prince digs it, that's good enough for me.
Crossing genres here, you've got Bus Name Desire is a scorching opener. Crazy Mixed Up World is almost country sounding. Lately is straight up rock. The matter of fact, my favorite Soul Asylum song, period, is a song called Oxygen. This is a double album, so it starts side D. But that song absolutely cooks live. If you talk to a Soul Asylum fan, they're going to tell you Oxygen is a live staple. So, but point is, I'm here to educate and cost you money, Grant.
Yeah, now I'm going to have to spend money. I already know that now. Every show that I do, I have to spend money.
Paul, is that a
It's fine.
sealed copy of that record?
You bet.
It
Here
looks
we were
sealed.
talking about on the Contrarians. Todd and I were on the Contrarians talking about what we're going to do when we get to that point in our lives where we have to unload stuff. How am I going to unload stuff when I talked to Paul here and I have to buy stuff? It's never going to work. I'm just going to give up. But that's a good one. And I don't think a lot of people really think about the silver lining. How many people in the chat do you even know about this record? You know, but this is what this is about. When you come to the Warehaus, we're here to turn you on to stuff. So that's what it's about, kids. I don't know. Oh, look, we've got a lot of good... Wow. People agree with you, Paul. Let's look at this real quick. Holy crap. Look at... Oh, my God. I have not... It's just going crazy. Let's look at... I don't know how we're going to finish this, but this is good. I want to hear from everybody in the chat. I love it. All right. Chicago 19 sold really well. Hey, Dave Lubin. Hey, Dave. Nice to see you.
Yeah, Chicago 19 did. They did Chicago 19 because Danny Seraphine convinced them that they should. Because I think it was Peter put out an album, and they were like, we need to put out an album. And 19 is commendable because it actually has Danny playing the drums on his last Chicago album. He's actually
real drums.
Real drums.
There you go. All right, here we have another one. This is going to be haphazard, ladies and gentlemen. Sweet Level Headed, 1978. Last album with Brian Conley. Yes. Scales. Oh my God, that's a great one. That's a great example. Because even though I like those Sweet albums without Brian, I don't have any problems with those. Everything did change. It did change. That is a great example. Gary Joe. All right. Carrie Cath with Chicago is Gold. Yep.
Shout out to Eric. Hold on, Grant.
What?
Eric is in the Warehaus. That is Eric Hansen. It's our buddy Eric.
Holy crap.
Yep. Go back to Eric.
Here's Eric. Paul with Solasime. Shout out. So nice.
That's our friend Eric Hansen.
Oh, okay. Cool. Hey, okay. Excellent. I saw Eric, but I didn't know who it was. All right. Cool. Thank you. Holy mackerel. Let's see. Dave Lubin. Chicago was great throughout the 70s and 80s. Todd loves it all, so you can't, but he will agree with that. Brian Howe albums are decent. Anthony Ferraro. Hey, Anthony, nice to see you. Yeah. Voivod, Outer Limits, good Muse. What are you channeling Martin Popoff, for God's sakes?
Oh, Rob.
Martin was just talking about Voivod the other day.
Martin Popoff lives Voivod. I bet his sensors are going off.
Probably.
Hi guys, it's Rob. Great job, guys. All right. D Rocker, Ted Nugent, Double Live Gonzo. What happened after?
Yeah.
What happened after that? Because I have some Ted. I actually have Double Live Gonzo, but I'm not sure exactly what happened. Oh no, I missed it. I was on did a Peter Chris meet and greet. Well, Star, if you're not on my Kiss shows, I don't know what to do. White Snake and Slip of the Tongue. Good one, Ernesto. Yes.
Good one.
I know it was obscure. Cactus were born from Vanilla Fudge. Yeah, you were talking about that before. Jim McCarty. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. Paul with Solar Slime Shell Out. Nice. All right. Totally agree with you, Paul. Star agrees with you. And if Star agrees with you, I agree with you. Pink Floyd The Wall, even though I liked what came after. I don't know. Do you like... What was the record that came out? The Final Cut? You like the Final Cut? I don't know.
Final Cut is 20% a fantastic record and 80% But when it's good, it's good.
Good Muse music. What's good about this discussion are the albums mentioned that I don't know about and probably should check out. And that's exactly what we're about on the channel. All right, everybody we might get through all these. We're going to go to the next thing. Todd, Thank you, everybody in the chat. Let's go over to Paul and get his next one. We will come back to everybody. So hold tight. If I can get this in the right spot. All right,
So Paul's
here we
going
go.
to do 2 in a row, is right? He
Oh,
can.
Todd's second one.
Yeah, he
Oh.
can. We can do that if you want.
No, Todd, you're next.
Okay.
All right, Todd, go.
All right.
I don't care. I'm easygoing.
I am going to fulfill a dream. I am going to talk about Spock's beard,
All right.
ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so Spock's beard, Snow. For people who don't know, and Paul has been reading out the names of the band members. Okay, so I want to do that too, because I don't want anybody to be left out. So Spock's beard. They started out. Let me see. When is their first album? 1995, I think. They were these guys. Neil Morse, multi-instrumentalist. He's known now for being in the Neil Morse Band and in Transatlantic and in Flying Colors and lots of things. Multi-instrumental, primarily a keyboardist, but basically plays everything. Alan Morse's brother on guitar, Ryo Akamoto on Hammond organ and mellotron, and that was one of the things that was cool about Spock's beard is that Neil played the piano and the synth, and Ryo Akamoto played the Hammond and the mellotron. So if you wanted to think of who was playing what, you could just do that. I think that's really cool. Dave Merrow's on bass and Nick DiVirgilio on drums. Nick DiVirgilio is now in Big Big Train, a pretty popular British band.
Love Big Train.
So brief history lesson about Spock's beard, and then we'll talk about Snow. Debut album, The Light. Second album, Beware of Darkness. This album right here was basically made in Neil's apartment in Culver City. And when you listen to it, you will be amazed that that's the case. One of my favorites here, The Kindness of Strangers. This one is 1997. Day for Night, 1999. These are in special little sleeves. That's what that actually looks like. And then V or 5, which I think is the best one. I feel like this is kind of their peak. And this is from 2000, I believe. And then they make Snow. And Snow is a concept album. I don't want to talk too much about it because I don't want to get anything wrong. But it's basically about a young man who is albino. He's very, very white. And he's kind of an outcast. And he leaves home with only his little boombox there. And he's basically homeless. He lives on the street in a big city in New York City. And he becomes sort of famous because he likes to talk. And so people will gather around and listen to him talk. And he has a spiritual kind of a thing that he does. And so he kind of starts sort of preaching. And he befriends this other gentleman who they call the Harlem Knight. And he's black, a very dark-skinned black man. And so the two of them, a very white man and a very black man, become friends. And people start thinking that Snow is some kind of a messiah, which this is sort of, that's a common thread in double prog albums. Basically, it's kind of like Rail and Lamb Lies Down on Broadway and that kind of thing. And so this is kind of the story of Snow, and he falls in love with a woman who is his friend. And she says, basically, well, I'll be your friend, but I don't ever want to touch somebody who's as big as a freak as you. And he has, he becomes very depressed. And it's kind of cool because each CD, it's 2 CDs, and each CD ends with a song called Wind at My Back. And this is just my interpretation of it. But at the end of CD 1, Snow and the Harlem Knight are singing the song, You Are the Wind at My Back, and they're kind of singing it to each other. And at the end, they're kind of singing it together to God, which is kind of nice. And anyway, so that's a really good album. But then what happens? Neil Morse has been going on the spiritual journey. Neil Morse has had kind of a rough life, and he has tried really, really hard to break into the music business since like the late 70s. He tries country. He tries being a singer-songwriter. He tries being in a band. And while Spock's beard is happening, he's sort of not believing that it's actually really going to take off for him. And he gets depressed, and he decides to become a Christian. And he has a really good book called Testimony, where he talks about this journey. and he's not your typical person who becomes a born again Christian. He's not conservative politically, and he resists it. He's got it coming at him in all directions. He's dating a girl whose father's a preacher, and he's kind of basically saying, I don't want to do it. I don't want to commit to this because, like, what if it's bullshit? And that's a really interesting, kind of a theme. You're talking about somebody trying to decide if they want to become a Christian, and their one of their big concerns is, what if it's bullshit? So I think that's it's an interesting story. But what ends up happening is after this album comes out, and he actually starts thinking about it during the making of this album, and for that reason, Nick and his brother Alan sing some of the songs on it as he's trying to get them confident enough to sing. He decides he's going to leave Spock's Beard, and he was also in a kind of a prog supergroup called Transatlantic, and he decides to leave Transatlantic as well. He thinks that he's going to, if he wants to make spiritual music, that he can't do it within these confines. And what ends up happening is that he talks to a lot of his good friends who are also musicians, and they kind of convince him that he doesn't need to leave his bands to get his message across. And so he goes back to Transatlantic, but he never goes back to Spock's Beard, not in any official capacity, because what ends up happening is that Nick DiVirgilio, the drummer, replaces him as a la Phil Collins in Genesis, and steps out from the drum kit and hire a touring drummer, and they make this album, Feel Euphoria. Now, this album is a good album. The album that comes out after it, Octane, is the even better album. This is with Nick DiVirgilio at the helm. And they do a self-titled album. They do X, which is, because they did 5, so they did V, so then they did X. And then Nick DiVirgilio, I'll try to make this brief.
No, you're fine, Todd. You're all right. We're good.
An opportunity to be the music director for Cirque du Soleil. Cirque du Soleil has like multiple versions of their cast that goes out like at the same time, and he gets a chance to do one of them. It's like a 3-year contract, and it's the kind of thing that he can't turn down. So he decides to do that. So he leaves, and then this other guy named what is his name? Hang on, I'm gonna have to look it up. Sorry, I've got too many things going on. Ted Leonard. Ted Leonard is the lead singer of a prog band called Enchant. Ted Leonard joins. They make this album. All of these albums are good. Problem is,
a lot of records. Holy crap! I had no idea there were that many.
Make another one after that too. Yeah, but the problem is, Neil Morris is one of those guys. He's a visionary. He's like Lindsey Buckingham. He's like Dennis DeYoung. He's like John Anderson. He wrote almost everything. So when you take him out, there's no vision. You got a really good band with a really good drummer and a really good keyboard player and a really good guitarist and a really good bass player and decent songs, but no vision. And so this right here becomes the last. I'm going to get some slack for this, but this is probably the last real Spock's Beard album.
That's all right.
The albums after it are very good, but they're just not the same. So I wanted to talk about Snow. That's the first thing I thought of when this topic came up, and talk about Neil because he's fantastic. So,
holy crap!
Spock's Beard.
That's
Snow.
a good one. Excellent.
I hope my timeline was you were able to follow it.
Well, if not, they're going to let you know.
Okay.
Well, we've got a lot of. Let's see. Oh my goodness. Let's look at the chat here real quick. Oh my goodness. I want to thank everybody for coming on tonight. I'm just kind of overwhelmed. I love everybody here. I love it. So let me look if I can catch up. I know there was somebody. Oh, Paul, Warbus Hank. I know someone in the Paul Simon fan club is here.
Hey, Phil.
Phil's here. Here we go. BM Bolt, let's go with Maria and Clutching at Straws. I didn't think they could go on without Fish, but Season's End is awesome.
Byron, I almost picked Clutching at Straws, but I didn't want to talk about Clutching at Straws too much and have anybody think that I was a Fish era guy. I think Fish is amazing, and I love.
I do too. I
their
like the
albums
Fish
with
stuff.
I think they're fantastic, but I think they're a better band with Steve Hogarth.
There you
So
go.
I didn't want
Excellent.
to get, I decided we would talk about that one another time, but that's a great example, possibly the best example.
Brucey Baby agrees with Mr. Bolt. Never heard a song. Oh, I probably.
I soul saw it probably.
Okay. Martin Popoff despises Star Castle. Well, but if Rand was here, Rand would back that up. He'd love Star Castle. Chameleon from Halloween. Michael left the band after it. I like the album a lot. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that.
I've heard that one mentioned too. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it was
Derek
Derek
Holmes. That's right.
I kind of figured
How could
that's
I
what
forget that?
happened, but he left after that. Okay, cool. Thanks for clarifications. Good music. Love Spock. Oh, we're going to get a lot of Spock's beard love.
I do too, Byron.
All right, there you go. Yes, Todd. Neil
Yay.
Morse is great. There you go. Guessing I need to check out some of the other Soul Asylum. I'm honestly only familiar with Grave Diggers as well. Well, Spider Butt sounds weird to say that. Wonder who Spider Butt 2 and 1 are. But anyway, I'm only familiar with like Grave Diggers, and then everything else after that, like everybody else.
Came after Grave Dancers Union. Candy from Strangers, an excellent album, but I got Silver Lining really is it.
Yeah, what's everybody think about Mike Portnoy joining Dream Theater again?
Well, I have a lot to say about that. There's a lot of misconceptions going on now that say that he's obviously going to leave the Neil Morse band. He is not. Neil Morse's projects have always scheduled around whatever dozen bands Mike Portnoy's in, and this will be no different. So yeah, Mike will be in Dream Theater again, which is awesome. He will also still be playing with Neil Morse, which is also awesome.
Golly. Here, you go to the Warehaus for all the latest updates, ladies and gentlemen.
I got a little love to Mike Mangini because I'm a diehard Extreme fanatic, as is Air Rock. So someday we'll get
I like Mangini a lot.
Yeah.
We got to
like
talk
him a
about them
lot.
on the Warehaus, Grant. I'm telling you.
Who?
Who's talking about Extreme?
Oh, I thought you were going to say Dream Theater.
No, Extreme.
My
saying.
answer is no one.
There we go.
Oh my God, Dan. Stories Traveling Underground. Michael Brown left before that album. Oh my God, Ian Lloyd record. Ian Lloyd took over from that. Anybody know that record? Are you guys familiar with the two Stories albums before this? Oh boy, blank stares. Dan, I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm with you. Luis, hey, there he is. Nice to see you. I saw that. Okay. Guess who? Everybody. Not familiar with that one. Ernesto, what is my dog doing? He's doing something over here. All right. I have two Spock Beards DVDs, Snow and Live 2008. Very interesting stuff.
Yeah, I wore my shirt from Morse Fest 2016, where I saw them play Snow with everybody who's ever been in Spock's Beard. So 9 guys, they all got together and they played Snow. I meant to show that earlier. Sorry.
That's all right. You're good. We're just hanging out. Here's another one. A-Rock, Randy Rhoads with Quiet Riot. Obviously, that's true. But I think, well, if you've ever listened to that Randy Rhoads stuff when he was in Quiet Riot, I think Quiet Riot did much better after he left. No offense, but it's not the same Randy Rhoads. I'm just saying. Recommended. I don't know. Neil had a book. There you go. There it is. Right. D Rocker. Pink Floyd, Momentary Lapse of Reason and Division Bell are pretty darn solid and delicate sound of thunder.
Absolutely.
Impressive. Well, yeah, it is all right. It's not quite the same as what came before, but that's all right. All right. Suede, Dogman Star 1994. Bernard Butler, guitarist and composer last. I know. Scales. I've seen that in the used bins, and I've seen it for like $1, $2, and I've never bought it. I'm assuming you would recommend that. I don't know. I've not. They were a big band like in the UK, but not so much here. Nick replaced Phil and Genesis on Calling. Yeah. Oh, he did? Was that Nick?
On 2 tracks.
Oh, okay.
Really?
Yes, on 2 tracks. The rest of the tracks are a guy named Near Z, who's
Oh, here we go.
Yeah,
Todd has a lot of fans here tonight. I'm getting all warm.
Neil Morse has a lot of fans here.
Yeah, but you've struck a chord. Dunbar faint. Ainsley Dunbar? Wait a minute, I missed something. Okay, here we go. Journey, Infinity, Ainsley Dunbar leaves after. Well, didn't Ainsley Dunbar go to, I think he went to Jefferson Starship.
I think you're right.
And they did Freedom at Point Zero. I'm good with that because I love that record. So I'm fine with them leaving Journey. Oh my goodness. Look at, mini Chris. Look at all, I can barely get through all these. All right. We'll come back to everybody. Paul, let's get to you. What's your next choice?
Next choice.
I didn't know this episode was going to be so big. Holy crap. Again, thanks everybody for showing up. All right, Paul, go ahead.
All right. My third album, I don't have on vinyl. Queensryche, Here in the Now Frontier. Going back to 1997 again. So for a little history, we got Operation Mindcrime. Everybody loves it. They get huge. Lineup being Jeff Tate, Chris DeGarmo, Michael Wilton, Eddie Jackson, Scott Rockenfield. And I want to throw out the fact that Peter Collins was their producer. Should sound familiar.
He did Rush. Yeah.
So then we get Empire. Boom. Now they're headlining. Now they're packing sold-out stadiums. So then Promised Land comes around. Not quite Empire. I loved it. Matter of fact, Promised Land was my favorite tour of theirs. Amazing theatrics are involved. They're acting things out on stage. It's great. Got Mindcrime front to back. What more could you ask for? Here in the Now Frontier comes out. And amidst, I won't even get the order of events correct, but halfway through their tour, okay, for starters, Chris DeGarmo, there's nothing like Chris DeGarmo with Jeff Tate on stage, and even in the writing.
Yeah, I saw him live. I know. Yeah.
With Here in the Now Frontier, check the writing credits. Every single song on this album is written by DeGarmo, written or co-written, except for, I believe it's Reach, which is still a fantastic song. And a B-side, which was a side project of Scott Rockenfield's called Televoid. The song was called Chasing Blue Sky. Happens to be one of my favorite Queensryche songs of all time. Should have made the album. So anyway, halfway through the tour, this was their last time headlining stadiums. Mm-hmm. EMI goes bankrupt. Bought out by Virgin. The money dries up. Queensryche has to fund the rest of the tour themselves. DeGarmo quietly exits the band. A very class act, consummate professional by all accounts. Is replaced by Kelly Gray, who played with Jeff Tate in Myth. They come out with Q2K in 1999. They're playing smaller venues, but they're selling them out. They're doing multiple dates. I went to, I think, 6 of those shows. 3 and 3. They did full weekends here in Chicago, like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Saturday, Friday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Meet and greets. Everybody's gracious. It's a great time. Mm-hmm. Then things start slowly disintegrating. Next album comes out. Things aren't selling as great. Music is noticeably a little bit not as much. We get American Soldier. We get Mindcrime 2. Eventually it comes out that the band wasn't even playing on that. Dedicated to Chaos comes out, which most Queensryche fans barely acknowledge. Then the huge explosion, the split, Jeff Tate leaves. Well, I'm not here to talk about Jeff Tate and the Queensryche split. I'm going back to DeGarmo. DeGarmo is the only person in that split who stayed friends with everybody. He quit the music business. He had already gotten his pilot's license by then. Mm-hmm. He became, for career, a professional pilot. You can't find a single interview with him. If it exists, he doesn't address it. In other words, the man remained a consummate professional, has remained a consummate professional his entire life. He never picked a side. He still is friends with everybody. So in that whole Tate Queensryche thing, but even like the Wikipedia entry, which I know Wikipedia is not necessarily the most reliable source, but I tracked the sources that are sourced there and followed up on those interviews. And the guy's got no enemies. In the meantime, his musical outlet, he did Spies for Darwin after he left Queensryche. Little side project with Sean Kinney, Mike Inez, and Vin Dombrowski from Sponge. So the two guys from Alice in Chains, and then the singer of Sponge. Was an EP. He wanted to do a full album. It didn't kind of materialize. So he did piloting full time, and then did The Rue as a musical project with his daughter, and pops up just here and there with musical kind of guest spots when he wants to. Point is, this album, while I can't call it a 10 out of 10, here's a contrarian point of view. My favorite Queensryche song of all time is actually on this album. And it's the song they opened this tour with. And it's the tour I missed because I had to work. It's a song called The Voice Inside. It's track 4.
That's a fail, Paul. A fail.
Fighting words for most Queensryche fans. But point is, while I will not sit here and say it's better than Operation Mindcrime or it's better than Empire, I don't like the mix on this album much at all. There's flaws in the recording of it. The songwriting is absolutely beautiful. There are so many great tracks on this album. The singles were Sign of the Times and I believe You. And then Some People Fly got some play. But they only played maybe 5 songs or 6 songs live off the album. Tate's solo band did another 2 songs, Spool and Hero. But there's maybe 3 or 4 songs I don't listen to on a serious regular basis off this album. The songs themselves, fantastic songwriting on this album, as good as almost the rest of their earlier catalog. It's an evolution for sure. It's not Mindcrime, it's not Empire, but neither was Promised Land. So Queensryche fans, if you haven't, check this album out. Strong songwriting. If you can get over a little bit of the mix and a little bit of the way maybe Rocket Field's drums are recorded, personal opinion, this is a fantastic album. Way underrated.
God,
Well,
dang.
I want to highlight something that you said. I want to make sure I have this right. Okay, so EMI got bought out by Virgin, and so who made the decision to stop funding their tour? Was that Virgin that made that decision? Because I think we should give both of
EMI
those
went
record
bankrupt
companies.
when Virgin bought what was remaining.
I think we need to give both of those record companies a big for doing that, because that
Oh,
is
no shit.
horrible. That's a terrible thing to do.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure I said that because you told me that and I didn't know that. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. In the middle of a tour.
Yeah.
That is no good. Those are some no good people right there.
No, not good. I did tell you this, Paul, that I did see Queensryche in '86 open for Ozzy, right?
Yes.
Wow.
Did I tell you that? I was in the front row, right in front of Jeff Tate.
So that would've been
86.
That would have been Rage for Order then.
Yeah.
Nice. That was before I even got into them.
Yeah, well, you
I had
know,
friends
I'm a
who-
trailblazer, Paul.
Yes, you are.
I'm a trailblazer.
I had friends who were into
That's
them, but
always
I
ahead of
just
the curve.
until,
I'm always ahead of the curve.
time.
And I did see Metallic on Master of Puppets, too.
As did I.
Okay, well, there. Oh,
And
look.
my first tattoo.
Oh,
my
he's
friend-
going to show tattoos again, for God's sakes. It's
Lady
okay.
Dusty.
All
My
right,
first-
well, I did see him, but I didn't think Metallic was any good, though. Ozzy, I thought, blew him off the stage. I swear to God. Oh, let's look at some comments here. Oh, my goodness. Paul's right. The production was lousy, but not a terrible record by Queensryche. Not their best, though.
Yeah.
Underrated song, Find Your Way Back to...
There's a whole Jefferson
Is that
Starship
Jefferson
thing
Star?
happening over
I know.
here.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of Jefferson Starship. I remember watching Starship on the show Fridays back in '81, playing "Find Your Way
Fridays.
Back."
I saw
Yeah,
that.
I've got everybody all worked up on Jefferson Starship now.
Veruca Starship friend, sorry.
Great call on Freedom at Point Zero. I just recently picked up the Japanese SHM remaster. It's never sounded so good. I must have. There you go. Hopefully we're turning people on to Jefferson Starship, for God's sakes. Let's go back a little bit. Oh my goodness. Oh, look at this. Freedom at Point Zero is blasting out of the record store. I was working back in 86. I quickly went back and asked who it was and bought the cassette.
What was the album with No Way Out?
Is that Nuclear Furniture?
Nuclear Furniture.
Okay.
That's actually my favorite one.
Really?
I
bought. Hey, I found that, you know, if you go like on Discogs or eBay, Nuclear Furniture is actually pretty expensive for like the original.
It was cheap for a really long time too.
I found a copy at Half Price Books for $5.99.
Yeah.
And you're right, Todd. That's not a bad record by any means.
It's not.
No. I don't know why. And why was that never re-released? I don't get it.
I don't know.
The video for No Way Out was trippy beyond description, but
oh my
God.
God.
I barely even remember that.
Unfortunately, I remember it like a bad trip. That video is seriously messed up.
I need to go look it up.
You need to be in an altered state to truly appreciate it.
Brett just popped in and said he agrees with you, Todd. I don't know what about
Spock's beard.
I agree.
There's an earlier comment.
So Brett,
later comment.
I don't know where Brett is. I wish Brett was on here. God, I haven't been on the show with Brett in a long time.
But that doesn't surprise me because Brett has awesome taste.
There you go. Yes, going for the one to drama to 90215. All good albums with or without John A.
Whether they're any good without John A. now is a whole other show.
I will say this, Byron, when those came out, when 90125 came out, 83, I was big into Yes when I was a kid. Well, I still love Yes, don't get me wrong. I welcomed 90125 with open arms. It was fine. It was different than what came before. The playing is still there. The songwriting's still there. Yeah. And you have to admit, Trevor Rabin killed it. I think he came into the band when they needed to be shaken up a bit, and I think 90125 is a good record. I have no problems with it. Some of those hardcore Yes fans don't like it. I'm good with it. Spock's beard. Oh yeah, okay. Jane, yeah. Got in late. Did you guys discuss? Oh yeah, Yep. What did Spider Butt anticipate what you're doing? Paul Rogers with Queen. Ernesto, well, think about it.
That's kind of low-hanging fruit, I think.
That's low-hanging fruit. And you know what? They never considered that to be like a real serious thing.
Queen with Paul Rogers.
That's what it was. It wasn't Queen.
Different brand.
Yeah. Best thing to happen to Queensryche since DeGarmo leaving was Tate leaving.
Agree 100%. No argument here.
Wow, I don't want to start a war.
No, I'm not here to hate.
You're going to stir the pot. Don't stir the pot.
They needed to split.
I was in the front row, New York City, 2001, Bacon Theater, Queensryche. End of show, Scott.
2001 would have been live.
Oh, my God.
Would have been Q2K tour then.
Holy shit, that's incredible. Even though I saw him in 86, so I still have you beat.
Those are great. Oh, nice. Nice.
Well, what about who? Todd will know this. Who was Vince Clarke? Left after the first album. Started. Oh my God.
Erasure.
Vince Clarke was the songwriter for Depeche Mode. No one mentions that. They didn't know if they could even go on without Vince, but they did. But so Depeche Mode's had several things where people were like, you know, it's a good one. It's a good
I'd
one.
bring up Sabotage, but I think I'd get blank stares from everybody except Eric. Promised Land is incredible. Tour was incredible. Absolutely. Yep. It was their best tour.
Oh, there's Star again. Star's my favorite. Why won't it come up? Wait a minute. We got to see what Star said. There you go. Couldn't agree with you more, Paul. Star is a big fan. So there you go. Till Todd Latour, they weren't the same after DeGarmo
And Todd
left.
revitalized them, no doubt. Eric knows a lot about this current era.
Oh, yeah, I've read this one. Punch it on YouTube, Lewis. You'll see me 1 minute. Oh, I don't know what that means. There's a lot. There's a lot of going on that I don't know about.
Yeah, fist bump after Scott Rockenfield hands him the sticks.
Okay. I'm glad. You know what? I'm glad that the panel is keeping me together because it takes a lot.
We got the wheel. We're good.
Love the guitar lick and just the same off Freedom at Point Zero. Yeah, it's some great stuff on that record. And the critics kind of slammed it to some degree when it came out. I don't agree. I think Freedom... Yeah, what? Because Grace is not on it? We didn't need Grace by then. I think Freedom at Point Zero stands up for itself. I think all the songs are great. It's great. Supertramp, Famous Last Words. Well...
I wonder if we should talk about that.
I wonder, this is why I brought it up, because this is a good segue. Todd, you're up.
All right. So I'm going to talk about Supertramp, Famous Last Words, okay? But this is going to be controversial. So it was nice knowing all you guys and everybody showing up to see shows that I'm on. This is probably where it ends.
Oh no.
I don't think. Okay, so what happens after this album comes out? Okay, Roger Hodgson leaves Supertramp. All right, a lot of sour grapes. He says, "I'm tired of having to make sure that I find a place for a saxophone in every song I write." So what does Roger Hodgson do? He makes in the Eye of the Storm. Is that the name of that album? Every song has a saxophone solo in it. But I digress. Let me go back to the beginning of my story. So, Famous Last Words right here. So, basically, what's been happening with Supertramp for the probably 2 or 3 albums before this. The album before this is the incredibly huge Breakfast in America. So, what's basically been happening is that Roger Hodgson and Rick Davies, the other principal songwriter, the guy with the beard, plays the piano, they're not getting along. So, it's basically every other song. Rick song, Roger song, Rick song, Roger song. Now you get those albums, even in the quietest moments and Breakfast in America. It's basically going back and forth between these two guys' songs, and they're all great songs, right? So,
Todd, I just want to. I don't want to. I do want to interrupt because I love this conversation because Supertramp. I love this, and don't forget they hadn't collaborated for years.
They had not sat down and wrote a song together in a very long time. They occasionally would trade. They occasionally would trade vocal, lines.
But they would be in the studio. They would record their parts separately and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I mean,
that friendship had broken down
years back.
Yeah.
So anyway, go ahead.
So,
real quick, Even in the Quietest Moments was my favorite song for over 30 years.
Well, what a great track, though.
It was replaced by The Garden from Rush, to give you an idea.
Wow. That is a really long time.
Well, yeah, you are Rush fans, for
I might make
sakes,
you mad, Paul, with some of the stuff I'm going to say later.
All right. Sorry, Todd, but, we're just keeping it loose. Sorry, but go ahead.
So, in my opinion, this record, I feel like this album is the album where the quality starts to not match. I feel like the quality of the Roger Hodgson songs is starting to dip. And I feel like Rick Davies is firing on all cylinders.
I agree 100%.
I'll give some examples. It starts weak. It starts with Crazy, a Hodgson song, and the second song is Put on Your Old Brown Shoes, which is a very rootsy sounding Davies song. I don't like either one of those songs. I never have. But then, track 3, It's Raining Again.
Oh, classic.
Top notch.
One
of the very best Supertramp songs, a Hodgson song.
I agree.
And then you've got Bonnie, which I also think is absolutely fantastic, which is a Rick Davies song. And then you've got Know Who You Are, which is a Hodgson song that I think is just okay. I think it's pretty good. But when you get to side 2 has My Kind of Lady, which is sort of like a doo-wop 50s kind of a thing with what I think is the very best saxophone solo of all time. And It's a Rick Davy song, and it's just absolutely fantastic. And the end of it is just gorgeous.
Have you seen the video for
I
it? They
have,
made
where
a
they're all
video
dressed like the
for it,
50s, yeah.
and they're all
Yeah.
dressed in the 50s.
And I
They
didn't
all
see it
have their
till
slick
years
back.
later.
And Roger's not in the video. He
He's
refused,
in a very little bit.
but he didn't want to do it.
No, he didn't want to do it.
That's an
He didn't wanna do it.
indicator that he's out.
And then
But
after My
whatever.
Kind of Lady, you get Say Le Bon, which is a Roger song, and I think it's a pretty boring song. Then you get Waiting So Long, which is this Prog thing, which is just fantastic. And then you get Don't Leave Me Now, another what I think is kind of a lackluster song. So in my opinion, Rick Davies was pulling ahead on this record.
I agree.
And Roger Hodgson was falling behind. Now, on the internet, on the interwebs, there is a whole thing going on where there are people who think that this band ended when Roger Hodgson left. And I'm here to say that I am Team Rick Davies all the way, because what did we get next?
All right.
We got
Brilliant.
this.
A brilliant record.
Every song absolutely kicks ass.
Brilliant.
And it's got Dave Gilmour playing guitar solos. It's got the biggest, fattest piano sound you've ever heard in your life. Produced by David Kirschenbaum, one of my favorite.
And it sounds great. If anybody's heard the I don't know about the vinyl, but I've got like the remaster. I've got the remaster, and I've got the original West German press CD back in the day. Either one sounds great.
Even the packaging is cool.
It's great.
So you see where I'm going here? I'm going backwards. Yeah. I'm saying that Hodgson left, and it got better.
It's great. It's
now
great. It's different than Breakfast in America, but it's great in its own way. It's a. I would say, I don't want to say the term progressive. It's more. Can I use the term progressive? It's not like prog rock, but it is. So. It's less pop oriented. It's more. Help me, Todd. Help me. How would you describe it?
I would say that it's prog adjacent.
Okay, perfect.
Because
but it's great.
Art rock, because it's a little proggier than that.
Yeah.
But it's got a long form video for Brother Where You Bound, which is a video that's 16 minutes and 30 seconds long. Biggest drum sound you've ever heard in your life. And Cannonball, even though it didn't chart that high, got a lot of radio play.
Great single, you have to admit. It's not like what you would expect with Breakfast in America. It wasn't anything like that. It's a departure. But Cannonball, back in the day, FM rock radio used to play it all the time.
Yeah, it got
they
a lot
don't
of play
play it anymore, but it used to get a lot of play.
It had a really cool video. It's basically just a performance video. But Bob Siebenberg had this big bass drum behind him, and he would go every once in a while, he'd hit it behind him. And you can hear that in the song, and it's very cool. And for years after, when they toured, he had that as part of his kit. But and then you got Free as a Bird. I think Free as a Bird is a pretty good album. I think that the songs are fantastic. They made the mistake of they put it wasn't a mistake putting this guy in the band. They put Mark Hart from Crowded House in the band, and even though he's not pictured, he sings one of the songs. And I think that kind of makes it kind of lose its momentum a little bit, because it kind of does, that part of the album doesn't really sound like Supertramp all that much. But it's got a long form piece on it called An Awful Thing to Waste, which is fantastic. Then they take a big long break, and in 1997 they come back as I think a 9-piece with a full horn section, and they do Some Things Never Change, which I don't have a physical copy of, and then they do Independent Label album.
Oh, I've never seen that one.
Slow Motion.
Wow.
Fantastic album. Full horn charts on most of the songs. I mean, just remarkable. So I'm here to say that this was really the end of Supertramp being a really enormous band. But if anybody has not heard what comes after that, it's different. But definitely check it out. So I think that's an example of somebody left a band and it made a big change. But I don't necessarily think that change was a bad thing.
It just depends how you want to look at Supertramp, though, because even though
for a lot of people that's a big part of their appeal is that they had two very, very different singers.
But Dave could write pop songs just as well as Roger.
He could.
I think
And there are some amazing songs early in Supertramp's career. A soapbox opera. There's just tons. Fool's Overture. There's tons of great Roger Hodgson material.
Yeah.
But I just feel like when it got towards the end of both of them being in the band, I just feel like Davies was just bringing it a little bit more.
Well, it opened up. I'm sure he was fine with Roger being there doing it, but things have their course, but I don't think Roger leaving the band hurt them. It might have hurt them commercially, but I don't think it hurt them artistically.
I don't think so either. But the whole time while Roger was gone, not the whole time, but a lot of different times during that period since Roger left, they have made Hodgson offers to come back. And there's always something in the deal that Hodgson rejects. And Hodgson likes to make people think that that's not happening, but it did happen. Rick Davies has said that we've made multiple offers to Roger to come back, and he always finds a reason not to. So
he's probably
Todd, how do you and I always end up on topics where we have, like it's always about like they said, and we always find the truth. It's like no. We always end up talking about that somehow.
Oh yes, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
The Sticks thing, this,
yeah.
Somehow it always ends up in the conversation.
Well, that's how, but I mean, that's kind of how this usually works in a situation like that. I mean, a lot of Supertramp fans have gone just basically Team Hodgson, and it all ends here. But the truth is complicated. These situations with bands.
Veruca Salt fans understand that really well. So absolutely.
Yeah. It's very complicated, and you can't tie it up in a nice little bow. It's
agreed.
Well, there you go. You should probably go out, branch out, get beyond Breakfast in America, because there's a lot more to it. Heck, I would even recommend the first 2 records that came out on A&M. No one really talks about that. It's quite a different band, but there are different. Well, look at Supertramp. There's all these different periods, so I would look at all of it.
All of it's worth looking.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Gary got some absolute classics. Exactly. Byron, Famous Last Words is pretty good. Brother, Where You Bound is a little better. Free as a Bird, not so much. Look at Byron, the critic. Look at him.
Free as a Bird has a really good side 2. It's backloaded instead of front loaded.
Luis, we need to work with Luis a little bit. Crisis, What Crisis? That's good.
That's good too. That's one of the few albums that has a song where the 2 of them have a song where they trade leads. But that's also right about the time when they stopped getting along.
Ooh, here we go. We did a show on Ryan Gavalier's channel. Aerosmith Done With Mirrors was another one for returns. There are some people that like Done With Mirrors, but I don't get it. I listen to that and I don't get it. I don't get it. And we did that whole series.
Grant.
Huh?
Me too.
Yeah, we did that whole Aerosmith series. Now, I was one of those guys. Okay, I'm going to go on a tangent for a minute, and I know we're going late. I was one of those guys. I'm not an Aerosmith guy, okay? I can appreciate what they did. I appreciate all that 70s stuff. But I was adamant, and I thought that all that 80s stuff was absolutely horrid, okay? We did that show. And look it up on Ryan Gavalier's channel. The series is all there. We would go 3 hours at a night. It was It was early on when we first started doing shows. But that 80s stuff, people badmouth it. But I'm telling you, there's a lot of great stuff on there. I'm just saying.
It's very hot and cold.
It's hot and cold, but it's not as bad as people make it out to be. I'm just going to say that. These guys, great show. Oh, thanks, Gary. Well, I only have the best in the Warehaus, for God's sakes. Aerosmith, I don't get it. Grant, I'm pretty sure that Simon left The Cure. Am I wrong on that?
No, he did not.
I think Simon. Well,
he left The Cure briefly, but he was only gone like 2 months.
For a week or something.
Yeah.
What about key members weren't on albums? Looking at you, Kiss. What about when key members weren't on albums?
Queensryche, Operation Mindcrime 2 was almost none of the actual members playing. That was a big loss.
But like Kiss Dynasty, that doesn't really have Peter Criss on it.
Yeah, but Peter Criss is just a drummer. This is Peter Criss's
Just
real.
a drummer.
Now listen, listen. Everybody, okay, people in the chat, listen to me. I like Peter Criss as a drummer, but Peter Criss, his true, what he brought to Kiss was his backing vocals and his vocals. Come on.
I think that what Peter Criss brought to Kiss, and we are going way on a tangent here.
That's all right. We're all right. We're gonna when we hit nine. All right, gentlemen. When we hit 9:30, I'm shutting it off. But we can wrap right now.
I can say this really quick. What Peter Criss brought to Kiss was that he had a little bit of jazz in his background, so he made those early Kiss songs kind of swing a little.
Right.
And to me, that's what Peter Criss brought to Kiss.
And not his vocal ability.
And then he stopped. And then he was a pretty good singer. But then he stopped.
What do you mean a pretty good singer?
He was a pretty good singer.
He was the best singer in Kiss. He vocally had the proper chops for it. He was totally underutilized in Kiss.
He was pretty good.
He was great. I'm not saying Peter Criss was a songwriter, but you listen to Black Diamond. You listen to Hard Luck Woman. God, what a great voice.
Black Diamond is my favorite Kiss song.
But he's great. He had a feel. He was a great drummer. He was great. The fact that Kiss just give him shit, I think that's piss poor. I don't care. Maybe Peter Criss. We're gonna. You know what? We're gonna get Star Peters all worked up.
Yeah. Well, here's the deal about Peter though. You can't punch the clock with a band like Kiss and come unprepared. You just can't do it. It's just like Ace can't do it by being late and drunk. I mean, you just can't.
No, it's like going to a job, you clock in and clock out. You've got to be totally on, you've got to be clean, you've got to be straight.
You gotta show up on time. You gotta
Kiss and Peter, I mean,
you gotta not stop playing in the middle of a song.
Listen to this. Dan says Peter Criss was on fire on Rock and Roll Over.
He was. Agreed.
Gary Joyce also loves Eric Carr. And I have nothing against Eric Carr. I think Elders the best album they ever did. You can quote me. I don't care. I like the Elder. I like what I saw them with.
Aerosmith.
Oh, here we go. Oh, wait a minute, people. It's The Good Doctor. The Good Doctor, where have you been?
I think the doctor's talking about Simon Gallup there. I'm not sure, but
I don't know, but I haven't seen The Good Doctor join on one of these chats in a while. Aerosmith on drugs that were the best, unfortunately. Some bands, we had a conversation about this the other day. Some bands operate better on drugs.
When I was getting into Aerosmith in the mid 70s, when I was in middle school, critics used to always say they were terrible live because they were drunk. So it's interesting what time does to
Star. Where are you? I want it. Wait a minute. Yeah, I hear. Star, will you weigh in because they have a Kiss museum in their house. I want to hear from you. What's your thoughts on Peter Criss and his vocal ability and his drumming and how he was represented? Here we go. Here she is.
That was fast. She was running for that.
Wait a minute. She's saying something. I've seen recent clip and it's horrible. Sloppy playing.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And I love Ace.
I love Ace. I saw Ace twice.
But he's so sloppy.
But Star, weigh in on Peter Criss, his vocal ability and what he brought to Kiss. I mean, I do think there was a big change. I do think there was a big change on Dynasty. Was it because Peter Criss wasn't drumming? He only got to do Dirty Living on that record, for crying out loud. But do you think that's really when Kiss really changed? This is turning into a Kiss show, but that's all right. I just like to talk music. It's all good, everybody.
Kiss shows sooner or later.
Well, it's fun to talk about music. I don't care. But anyway, people agree with me about something, and I like that. Creatures for my birth year, Gary. Oh my God, Luis, what are you, like 17 years old? God, just a baby. Of course, if I add that up, he's probably in his 40s.
Yeah.
Oh my. Oh, goodness gracious. My favorite is Creatures. Well, we could talk about Creatures. I don't look at that as so much a Kiss record. That's a departure.
It's a good hard rock album.
Yeah, but it's not Kiss to me. But all right,
agree.
I'm going to make a lot of 41. Lou. Oh, he's just a baby. All right, he was great. Okay, Star Peters, who we hold in high regard. Oh, he was great, but the drugs got the best of him. Gene and Paul LaRousse. That's true. But you have to admit what Peter Criss did bring to Kiss was important. That's all I'm saying.
I agree.
Yeah, of course they. Yes. Air Rock, you're totally right. That if you listen to Gene talk about it, that's what they patterned themselves after. They love the Beatles. If you listen to Gene's solo albums, listen to those tracks on Gene's solo album. How Beatlesque can they be? He loved the Beatles. Yeah.
Peter Criss and the All-Stars. I can see it now.
Oh, Dan. Dan mentioned all right, we're almost done. Dan mentioned this album Marcus to turn me on to. That was this artist back in the 70s that the album failed. The CD is on Rock Candy as a reissue. It's really good. It's like one of those records. Like, we've talked about what's the band that I always talk about that I get all worked up about?
Cheap Trick?
Well, yeah, that one. But I'm having a brain crisis. I'm just all over the place. Anyway, here we go. Kiss is well, yeah, it's a business, for God's sakes. And once the other partners cashed out, obviously it's Stanley and Simmons. It used to be a partnership. No one else is in the partnership. All right, here we go. Great show, guys. Good discussion, entertaining and informative. That's what we do here on the Warehaus. We're trying to inform and entertain, and I couldn't do it without these two gentlemen on the screen with me.
Thank you very much.
Dan, Blue Ash. Yeah, we've got to go. We've been on here forever, but hopefully you got turned on to some of what we were talking about. Veruca Salt, check that out.
Produced by Bob Rock, I forgot to mention.
Bob Rock. But it's always fun. We're just here to inform and have a good time. It's all about the discussion. Todd, you're going to throw something up while we're...
just this, because it's great.
Yeah. I could probably get rid of Supertramp. Oh, well, we're going to go down with Supertramp. So anyway, I want to thank everybody for coming in and talking in the chat. It's been a lot of fun, and we like to keep it loose. And it's just about the discussion. Hopefully, tune in for the next thing. I do want to plug this. Saturday morning, I am recording with Pete Pardo and Sea Tranquility. We're going to do... I need everybody to tune in on Sunday. 10 o'clock, we're going to do a ranking of Night Ranger. Now, look at Paul's face.
Rock and I will be there, that's for sure.
Well, it's going to be interesting because Night Ranger, if I had to rank anything, that would probably be one of the hardest things I'd ever have to rank. If anybody knows the whole catalog, there's a lot of the same. It's like Night Ranger put out one record and they put out that same record over and over and over, but there are different variations in it. So Pete and I are going to tackle it. I hope it's going to be entertaining. I still don't know what I'm going to say yet because I look at my list and I have so much work to do. But I guarantee it will be fun. So Sunday at 10 a.m., tune in to Sea of Tranquility, and I'll be there in the chat. So we can rap about this. So I hope everybody's there. It's going to be fun. I don't know what I'm going to say. I have no idea yet. When you do well, maybe you don't. If you do a show on Sea of Tranquility, there's a lot of prep. And most of these shows, I just wing it. I can't wing it over there. So I'm looking forward to it. It should be fun. Well, hopefully everybody shows up. Anyway, Todd Evans, Paul Simon. We will do something more because I like this lineup. It's so much fun. So please like, subscribe if you haven't already hadn't. We'll see you on the next thing. And I'll see you on Sunday on Sea of Tranquility. So we'll see you tonight. Thank you, two gentlemen. It's been a fun discussion. Till next time, everybody, we'll see you.